Hello and welcome to round 2 of season 11 of the All Assist Soft League, and it's the turn of Qatar to play host to one of the more exciting leagues that are going on at the moment, especially in comparison to what's going on in the real world of Formula 1 over the last couple of months. Joining me to go through it is the Brundle to my Crofty. Skin, how are you doing?
Yahoo! I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. You sound a lot more lively than you did 2 weeks ago. Maybe the week break has done you good. Hopefully the week break has done a number of these drivers good as well. For those that aren't aware, a couple of weeks ago we were in Vegas where AMS Johnsy, on his debut race for the All Assist Soft League, walked away with the win from pole position and even held first place through what was a very controversial, very questionable kind of sprint race that EA decided to throw loads of curveballs to us, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm feeling much better this time round. A combination of a bad day, as a lot of people have on a Monday. Let's be honest, and my hate for this game so far, which I've documented very much so with you in terms of the dynamics of it, and then a very stop-start race in Las Vegas. It was a tough watch, to be honest. But we're back and we're in Qatar. It's much more open. Didn't realise that it was a nighttime qualifying, which should mix things up a bit. I'm just on board with Petra Caspi, who was a bit of a menace when it came to contact and penalties last time out. Was first out on the track, so we'll be the first to set a time, and that will be shortly followed by my personal favourite, being a Red Bull fan, in Danger David. So what are your thoughts after the race one? A lot of people were talking about in the Discord, how the game was running and how it were affecting certain drivers and impacted certain incidents or even caused certain incidents. Big update today. Do you think that we should be in for a much cleaner race today?
I hope so. We've both played this game a lot since the last race took place, and we can both say that it has been quite poor. And hopefully these last few updates that they've done, the update, of course, that came out just before the race, the patches that they've put in there, makes it a little bit smoother for the driving as well. And I'm looking at Qatar. This is my first view of Qatar, of course. They've not raced it in real life. I haven't actually been out on track and raced it either yet, and probably for the better side of it. So you've had a couple of laps on it. You've had a bit of a trial on it as well yourself, haven't you? So I'm going to ask you, first of all, plenty of corners, 3 sectors, 1 DRS zone for the entire of this race, which makes it a bit more exciting. I assume higher downforce is going to be implemented on a lot of these cars?
Yeah, you would assume so. As you mentioned, I have spent a little bit of time out on the track, not by any means a significant amount, but my first sort of impressions when driving around it reminded me of like a Portugal-style track. The turns can be quite deep at points, and then there are those straights there as well. So in terms of overtaking opportunities with how windy the track is, I do think they are quite limited, especially with, as you mentioned there, only 1 DRS section. So this is going to be a really, really pivotal qualifying, and first corner will be key as well, because I don't think there's huge amounts of overtaking chances on the track.
Well, I will tell you that while you were talking, Danger David spun off ever so slightly. This time lap that he's going to put forward is going to be a poor one. He stayed on the side, allowed multiple cars to go past him, so he's going to have another go at it. But again, it's just that part of the game, isn't it, sometimes, where the back end of the car maybe gets away from you. But we've seen that quite a bit from Danger David when he's been driving, that sometimes the back part of the car does seem to just get away from him ever so slightly and can be quite costly. And of course, in qualifying, it seems to have done that just to kick things off for us. It is currently a 1-2 though for Mercedes. 4 cars have crossed the line. Evo 32 just goes quickest on a 122.48 for the Aston Martin. In second, it is Quincy on 122.9. RSO 121 at 123.3. The Nosebo of McLaren now jumping up into 4th place on 124 as AMS Johnsy goes 121.8, the current leader of the Drivers' Championship in the Haas. With saying that, Haas are currently the Constructors' leaders as well. So from when we started this around about 6-7 weeks ago, we saw at the time that it was kind of just being led by VSM Sandman. Maybe Danger David were quite close, but it was really a 2-horse race, and even then Sandman kind of had the upper edge. At the moment, Johns is coming from absolutely nowhere, and it's made it a bit more entertaining. So we're hoping that it's going to be a kind of a kind of mirrored effect to what's going on in real life with McLaren, of course, with Lando and Oscar Piastri at the moment. So hopefully that's something we can continue pushing further forward, with Formula One father going into second place with 122.3, but it is still AMS Johnsy out on pole position at the moment. So 139 from the AlphaTauri of Frankie 1811 leaves him in 13th place. It is the highest of any of the lowest, of any of the cars that have been out on track at the moment, which means we do still have Danger David and D Perez, the two Red Bulls now in the pits. Of course, Danger David spinning off, must have gone back into the pits thinking that, you know, the tyres have taken a little bit of damage. So hopefully we'll see at least one of the Red Bulls out very, very soon. The way this works is just one singular qualifying session full of 18 minutes. We do have a full qualifying session coming up for you in a couple of weeks' time when we visit Silverstone. So that should be a bit of a nice little change of scenery for us as Danger David makes his way back out onto track. Plenty of cars currently in the pits. T-Bran, I think, is the first one that's still out there at the moment that is going to set a time lap, and he's coming round onto the final corner now, onto what is relatively a long pit straight as he opens up DRS just as the pit straight starts. He's going to set a time of, going to wait and see, 121.8 is the time to beat. He gets 122.4, and that is good enough to put the Alfa Romeo up in third place, as it stands at the moment. A quite clear track, so an opportunity if Perez is to go out, as he is doing now, and VSM Sandman waiting for the track to quieten down a little bit before they go out there to set their time. So what's your thoughts on what is currently the top three as we reach towards around about the halfway stage?
Well, the moment's gone, mate. I've been sat here for 3 minutes waiting to get a word in, but it's all right, mate. I was on board with Johnsy as he set that time lap, and I'll be honest, if that was real life, they might be looking at it with the stewards in terms of exceeding track limits. A couple of corners where he went way off track coming round, so it would be interesting. It is on the, it will obviously be on the stream and there for people to watch back, but yeah, I'm not sure if there might be a little late call on invalidated lap time. So yeah, I'm just on board with Sandman now. Is on this time lap. He was on an out lap and then went in. I'm not sure what the reason was, if he spun or whatever it was, but currently on a time lap going into sector 2, and looking all right, to be fair. But you know, this could be the new rivalry now, as you mentioned earlier. It was sort of Sandman and Danger David in the previous game, and then Johnsy's coming and just throwing a cat amongst the pigeons, as they say. I don't know if you caught it. I saw it on my screen while you were talking, but the no sabo for your team McLaren was disqualified for blocking the pit lane. I didn't see the incident as I was on board with Johnsy at the time, but I'm not sure if there's been a problem, technical issues there, or if he's drove out and thought, fuck this, I'm just gonna block it up. So Sandman going over the line now and goes pole, just under 2/10 quicker than Johnsy. So there you go. There is the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons. Get my words out and put my teeth back in, I think, there. But Danger David is currently coming into sector 3 and is slowing down again. So you were on board with him earlier when he let cars go past, and I'm on board with him now on a time lap where he is doing the same thing. Whether that is to try and free up a bit of space in front of him, I'm not sure. But we are now into the 10-minute territory, and Danger David is still yet to set a lap. Johnsy is still in the pits, but I would imagine now with Sandman taking that provisional pole, he should be out very soon to try and get that back.
Yeah, I was just on board with Perez throughout his lap then, and he's at a 122.7. I think whilst he was going at his best speed, I think Danger David were kind of getting quite close to him, so he maybe just healed a little bit, thought I'll give it one more shot in just a moment's time, give him a little bit of space, but it looked like there was the potential of being a bit of an upset there from one of the Williams on their way out as well, but it doesn't look like that has been the case. So
Danger David has gone off track, sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, it seems like he's really struggling at the moment. I don't know if you're on board with him, but gone into the gravel, had to slow right down, probably going to have to give his tyres a couple of minutes just to get back to their peak performance. But yeah, Danger David is not having the best of time in qualifying so far. It's another lap now, which is gone. So yeah, really struggling at the moment.
He's going to have to head back in and maybe change those tyres. He's the only driver out there now, other than the No Sabo, that hasn't set a time, and he's been out there now, and I think this is his 4th lap. So if he heads in towards the pits, that'll be a second time where he's going to have to change them tyres, maybe take a bit of time out of it and go again. And this is valuable time. You see Sandman, like you say, has just taken pole position, so Johnsy's got that second chance, and Danger David's just falling a little bit behind those two at the moment. After second place 2 weeks ago, it's going to be important for him to make sure that he's keeping himself very much in and amongst that fight with Sandman and Johnsy. I think it got just a little bit away from him before the last race of last season. But it's good to see Haas, Williams, Alfa Romeo all up there. It's a very different sort of setup, isn't it, when you look at these sort of drivers, as Ivor goes up into 3rd place on 122.0 with the Aston Martin, so it pushes Perez down into 7th place. And I know Danger David, when I did the interview with him 2 weeks ago, turned around, and I'll let you give me your opinion on this as a Red Bull fan. He turned around and says this season is about winning the championship as a team. So finishing 2nd place, still humble enough to say that it's all about the team. What's your thoughts?
That's a very Mark Webber comment, but AMS Johnsy is just crossing the line to try and get pole back, so I'll let you get on board with him and take it away. Do you think he can get pole back from Sandman?
Well, he's taking these corners quite nicely, and he seems very confident with what he's doing at the moment as he passes one of the Aston Martins that was just off the track at that point as well. I think they moved out of the way to allow him to go by, and I think he's going to be coming up now towards, it's going to be either VSM Sandman or his Ferrari teammate Pleasant Snake 13. I think they were the teammates last season, and he's going to be allowed to go just past. He goes purple through Sector 1, so his mission of gaining that 2/10 somewhere to get himself back on provisional pole ahead of VSM Sandman is going in his favour at the moment. Danger David has boxed. There are still quite a few cars in the pits, which means if he is going to go out there and try and get a time to compete with these two, he's going to have to do it soon just to make sure that he's not being left in too much traffic. Of course, with 6 minutes left to go, we do have a yellow flag in Sector 3, and I think for the moment there, Johnsy did take purple in Sector 2, so he's in the final sector with 2 purple sectors so far.
He's just going. He's currently going just over 2/10 quicker, which would put him. I mean, it's going to be
close, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that would just scrape him pole, but take us across the line, Adam.
Yeah, he opens DRS almost instantly as soon as he crosses that line there, and he goes across the checkered flag and takes it at 121.4. So not only did he gain the 2/10 that he needed to get ahead of VSM Sandman, he gained a further 2/10. So Sandman is going to have to find himself another 2/10 to get himself back on the front position of this grid. He's just passed the line to make sure that this is a timed lap for him. So we'll stay on board with VSM Sandman Skin. Danger Davies just coming out of the pits now, so I'll let you jump on board with him. And by the time Sandman's finished his lap, it'll allow you to take us through just what Danger David's doing as we come up towards the end. There's a bit of traffic here as well for Sandman, which is going to make things a little bit difficult, and this is what I was saying about what Danger David's going to have to go through, but it looks like he's at the right time as Sandman goes wide and off the track, heading into turn 4 now as well towards the end of Sector 1. I believe he's got a red in Sector 1 as well, so he's going to have to find a little bit more time. It looks like he's starting to lose a bit of the pace as well, so maybe preparing himself for one more shot at it before time does run out. We're getting towards the point now, though, where drivers aren't going to have the time to be able to go into the pits and change their tyres. It is almost like a one-shot qualifying session for multiple of these drivers, one of which, of course, is Danger David, as we do have a yellow flag in Sector 2, and Sandman has moved to the side to allow one of the Mercedes to go through, so I think he's preparing himself to go again, as he has gone red in Sector 2, so he's losing out on his time of what he was getting before, and he's preparing himself to go again. Johnsy is headed into the pits. I can't imagine he's going to have time to come back out again, and Sandman is heading into the pits as well, so the interesting thing is that he must have come off at some point, nearly goes into the wall and in towards the pits as well. So Skin, I'll come across to you now for just how Danger David's doing as Sandman heads into the pits.
Yes, mate, he's just heading into Sector 2, or he has headed into Sector 2, should I say. There's not really much to go off because he hasn't set a time yet, and we are really at the stage of all or nothing for Danger David. I tell you what, he doesn't like to keep it sensible and comfortable, does he? He likes to mix things up and make it as hard for himself as possible, as we've seen throughout the races that we've commentated so far in this league. He's set 56.4 after Sector 2. I'm not sure where that ranks in and amongst the rest of the grid, but we will soon find out as he is coming round the final 2 corners now. This will be a right-hander as he goes... Oh, he's pitting! He's pitting!
Wow. Well, it's a bit of a turn up, isn't it? Deciding to go into the pits there. 3 minutes left. Do you think he's got time to maybe get out there? It's going to have to be a quick pit stop in and out, isn't it?
He's going to have time, but this is going to be a combination now. If he has literally got one lap, and with his form so far of spinning, as you mentioned when you were on board with him, going into the gravel, which I mentioned when I was on board with him, it is down to one lap. And again, you take into account the potential traffic as well. Oh, yeah, it's a bold strategy. I'll be interested to see what the conversation is in the Discord in regards to what's happened there. But I'm just on board now with D. Perez, his teammate, currently sitting in third place, taking up the second row with Evo 32 in the Aston Martin. And yeah, this is interesting so far, to say the least, especially as I mentioned, D. Perez won't go faster. He's currently going 8 seconds quicker than his previous fastest lap. So let's head on board with Quincy, currently on an outlap. Did have pole for about 13 seconds earlier on in qualifying, but where do you think we stand in terms of the Mercedes, currently sitting 10th and 11th? They seem to be a team that is either all or nothing. They're in and amongst it, or they're down the bottom of the pack.
Yeah, they set, like you said, the provisional pole, didn't they? 122.9 for both of them, and neither of them seem to have been able to kind of improve on that time. So it was a case of, you know, they maybe peaked on the first attempt, didn't they? I'm on board at the moment with RS0121. He's gone a little bit wide there, and yeah, he's headed in towards. He's gone into the pits now. So I'll jump on board with Quincy, who I think you said is on a time lap at the moment, isn't he?
That's right.
You say he's on a time lap at the minute. Yeah, heading in towards turn
just
4.
Just about to go into sector 2, and currently against his fastest lap, he is 4/10 slower, so unlikely to set a quicker lap than the one he is on now. Danger David is now on an outlap, but very quickly jumped on board with Evo, who is in 4th place. Nothing in terms of distance between him and D. Perez. He's about half a second behind Sandman on that front row. Let me just look. He is going into he's pitting, so that doesn't matter either. Sandman on a time lap, mate.
He is, yeah. I'm on board with Sandman at the moment. He finished his outlap just as you started talking about Evo then as well. So yeah, he's on a timed lap, and with Johnsy on an outlap and Danger David now on a timed lap as well. It means it's all or nothing for all three of those drivers. More so, I should say, for Danger David. At least the other two are currently sat on the front row of the grid as he goes into sector 2, taking the corners quite nicely and confidently. I think he just exceeded the track limits there as well, but we'll keep that one between me and you, because I think the rules seem to change depending on what track you're on, don't they? Late. So we'll go from there.
It's a good job that we're not streaming this, so no one can see it, and it will remain between me and you forever.
Absolutely, definitely the secret. As he goes in towards the end of Sector 2, heads in towards the start of Sector 3 now. It does seem like it's a bit of a short track, doesn't it, this one? Quite quick to get through, as Johnsy has set the time of 121.4. He will not get another opportunity. So if Sandman can beat the time of 121.4, he will be on provisional pole, depending on what Danger David can do. He opens up the DRS on the pit straight at the moment. 121.4 is the time to beat. He hits a 121.7. It still keeps him in second place for the time being as we wait for Danger David. There is still the opportunity of a couple of other cars out there at the moment. No disrespect intended to those that are out there on the track at the moment with their potential to better their times, as we can see Danger David now heading in towards the final corner. Just passing the DRS detection zone, heads into the final corner now, almost a couple of yards round the corner, and there goes the DRS open. He's going to set a timed lap. It could get him out of 19th place. 121.4 is the time to beat. He gets 121.8, which means it's a second row lockout for the Red Bulls as it stands, with Danger David and D. Perez starting just behind Sandman and Johnsy. So 2 weeks ago, he said it was all about the team and getting this team as high as they possibly could. In response to that, they sit 3rd and 4th ahead of the Qatar Grand Prix. What's your thoughts as a Red Bull fan, first of all, to think how they're going to approach this, being 3rd and 4th, taking on two juggernauts in Johnsy and Sandman?
Well, if you look at the rest of the grid, you've got the other Haas in 17th, and you've got the other Ferrari in 10th. So as it stands, a good points haul when it comes to the constructors. You said yourself about Danger David's focus being on the constructors and it being a team win. So do they be aggressive, which I think if they're pushing Johnsy and Sandman, they've got to be aggressive, because from what we've seen so far, they don't make mistakes. So if they're wanting to push up into that front row, that first or second spot, they've got to be aggressive. That then opens up the potential for incidents, crashes. We've seen Danger David many a time drop down to the back of the grid and have to fight his way back up towards the top. So it really is do we be aggressive to get first or second, or do we be sensible knowing that third and fourth should get a higher points total compared to the Haas and Ferrari in front of us? If you're on if you've got that predicament, which side do you think you'd lean towards?
I think you've got to be aggressive from the very beginning. You've got two drivers there in third and fourth place, and the main thing is just making sure that you're not getting too close to each other. The last thing you need is a collision, and when you've got two cars that are that competitive, so close together, there is always the risk of taking a bit of damage. And like you said, Danger David's had multiple incidents on first laps and first corners, even to an extent sometimes, where it's led him falling down and back out of the top 10 or even the points finish, and then get himself back up, and sometimes even getting himself back on the podium. So the strategy has been on point for him. What strategy would you adopt taking into this with a third and fourth place? Do you put same strategies out there? I know we say every week, don't we, that we go for the soft tyres to begin with, because we know we can switch to hard when one of us inevitably hits the wall and loses a wing. But it's different, because these are actually good at the game. So what's your opinion on the strategy approach from the Red Bulls?
I mean, you pretty much half answered the question for you there, mate. They're actually good at the game, so I wouldn't be one to offer any advice or suggestions on that one. I for me personally, I would still stick to my start on softs in case there's any incident. In terms of what the Red Bulls should be looking at, I personally think you'd be sensible if their focus really is on that constructors title. Then you're third and fourth at the minute. Take that as a positive result and maintain it. And if Sandman or Johnsy make a mistake, then you capitalise on that. But again, that comes with a bit of luck, hopefully at some point. In terms of strategy, I think start both on the softs, and then you pit one lap after the other. Around say about 30% into the race, chuck your mediums on, and see it out and manage your tyres. But well, we'll see. Well, I'll have said all that. I'll have offered advice, and they'll do the complete opposite because they're the ones that know what to do properly.
Yeah, I did hear from Johnsy last week. I spoke to him after the race, and he said that he moved onto the hard tyres accidentally at the end. So when the final safety car came out, and touch wood, we don't see as many safety cars as we did 2 weeks ago, he said that he was intending to move on to the soft tyres and accidentally moved on to the hard tyres, so it cost him ever so slightly on that. For those that are just joining us for the first time, this is a formation lap, and when the formation lap is finished, some cars will be listed as disqualified. Ignore that, they'll be back in the race in time for the lights out. So we made that error ourselves the first time, and it was an absolute waste, so nothing to worry about there.
We've made that error all 5 races we've commentated on, haven't we, or however many it's been.
I think the highlight has to be the first race when we thought lights were out on a formation lap.
Yeah, you went full prime Jackie Stewart.
Brilliant. Well, it's 29 laps around the Qatar circuit, 16 corners, 1 DRS zone and 1 extremely long pit straight. It is Johnsy on pole position, followed by the Ferrari of VSM Sandman. Nay Danger David and D Perez give a Red Bull second row lockout. It is Aston Martin in 5th place with Evo 32. Then Formula 1 Farah takes 6th place in the Williams. An AlphaTauri of Trugster in 7th place, and T-Brand takes 8th place. You've got Frenkie 1811 in 9th, and then the Ferrari of Pleasant Snake 13 making up the points finishers in 10th place. Toxic CZ10 is in 11th place, RS0121, and his teammate Quincy take 12th and 13th respectively in the Mercedes. Quan 23 in the Williams sits in 14th place. Peter Caspi, who we know had a couple of incidents 2 weeks ago in the Alpine, joined by his teammate Racing Wheel 027 in 16th place. Sir Ibo in the Haas takes 17th. Maverick 09 in 18th in the McLaren. Skid Solo is in 19th, and the Nosebo, after being disqualified in qualifying, sits at the back of the grid. So whilst you can celebrate your Red Bulls in 3rd and 4th, my McLarens are 18th and 20th. If either Maverick or the Nosebo are listening, I have faith that you can do better than what everyone's expecting. And Maverick's left. I didn't mean it. Come back. He's left. He's had enough. I've said one thing and he's gone. I'm sorry. Right. As they get ready to line up on the grid, he's done that on purpose. As they get ready to line up on the grid, who's your favourite for this race?
got to be Johnsy. I think at this point, I've no reason to go against it after his dominant performance last week. So, yeah. I mean, we've only seen him race once. It could have been a flash in the pan, but based off his qualifying performance and that phenomenal pole lap, it would be a bit silly to go anywhere else at this point, wouldn't it? But let's see, Aggie, take us into the first couple of corners.
I will, as soon as the cars are all parked up and ready, everyone just getting back into position. I'm feeling that Maverick will be back in time for the race start. I'm hoping he will be back in time for the race start. Otherwise, it will make it quite interesting. So there's the first disqualification for the No Sabo. Ignore that. I believe he will be back in position in just a moment's time, although it looks like he's parked up just in front of one of the other cars, actually, and he's gone quite a bit further ahead than he should have. So I'm not quite sure. RSO121 is apparently also disqualified. So we'll see what happens in just a moment's time as chaos is caused. And it looks like he's gone straight through the pack and crashed into people. And he's been given a DNF for it. So we will wait for the lights out. I'm pretty sure this might even lead to another formation lap. I've not seen people provide us that much chaos in a formation lap before. So we'll see what happens. RSO121 is showing as a DNF. The No Sabo is down as disqualified. So we'll just see what happens. Quincy is saying that the lobby's bugged. So we will see. I think everybody might have to leave and we go again for the race. We've been in this situation before. It's normally as a result of the game starting. It's like the start of a new game, isn't it, where there's always these bugs and these issues. But we can quickly mention the strategies that the drivers had gone for whilst we wait and find out just what the plan is to push forward with. It looks like a split strategy for the Red Bulls. Danger David going out on hards and Perez going out on mediums. We've got a split strategy for the Ferraris, Sandman on mediums, and just as we hear that a lot of the drivers have retired from the session, I believe it is also going to kick me from the session. Am I right in saying we should leave the session as well?
Quite possibly, yeah.
I've left. I'm gone. Right. At the moment, we'll be back with the race in just a moment's time. The split strategies looked like it was going to be something that Ferrari and Red Bull both went for there, though. I know that kind of might have just ruined it for them ever so slightly if they were trying to spring a surprise. But Danger David, starting on the hard tyres, I know you said about the soft tyres being your preference, but in general, the hard tyres, it's kind of in for the long haul, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Is it a case of trying, outlast Sandman and Johnsy, get a bit of a lead, and then pit when you don't have to worry about coming back out into traffic? Maybe that's the thought process there.
There we go. It looks like they're getting rid of the formation lap. Now, we've had it plenty of times where whenever you have a formation lap, the race isn't allowed to start, is it?
Yeah, correct. I mean, it happened 2 weeks ago when they did the race. The exact same issue happened, so... yeah, they've clearly not fixed it quite yet, have we? But shall we go on? Shall we go on pause for a few minutes before the race restarts?
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do, isn't it? Well, we can do whichever, mate. I'm happy to go with the majority, which on this occasion is you.
What were your thoughts on Silverstone? Or are you saving it?
I can mention what I thought on Silverstone because as a McLaren fan, it was bloody brilliant. It's been the most excited I've been for a race in a long time. And I remember telling you just before the race started that I was looking forward to it. And those upgrades, I have no idea what's happened or where they've come from, but out of nowhere, we are the McLaren of old.
Yeah, it was an amazing weekend for them. I'm sure Lando was absolutely buzzing to get on the podium, but yeah, I mean, it's just about can they keep it up now? What it's don't tell me. Oh, don't tell me. Honestly, don't tell me. Don't tell me what's next.
I don't know what you're asking.
No, I'm asking what is it? Is it Hungary next?
I was about to tell you the stat of it's the first time that two British drivers have sat on the podium since 1997.
Oh wow, Damon Hill.
I don't know, mate. I was 5. I didn't watch it. Yeah, in 2 weeks' time, it's Hungary, by the way. One of your favourite tracks, Hungary, along with Austria. I don't know what it is about Hungary, but you do seem to like it for some reason.
I think I just like that part of the world, mate, to be fair. Maybe that's what it is.
I got given a nice little lecture on seg. You know them little segs that you can go on, them 2 wheels where you have to try and keep balance, something that I'm dreadful at.
You had sex in Hungary?
No.
Oh.
Quite the contrary, really. So on the segs, when we were going across, you know what I mean by segs, don't you? Them two-wheeled things where you have to keep balance when you stand on them.
Yeah.
Segways, segs, whatever they're called. Anyway, you go on these tours, and they were telling
Keep
us
saying
about how
segs for me,
Buddha and
mate.
Pest. Pun?
You can keep saying segs for me, mate, so I'm getting off on it.
Yeah, we should have just gone on mute. We'll go to a break, and we'll be back. We'll be back when we've got the race to start. This is what happens when we try and do filler talking to you.
You go and get yourself a drink or something, and I'll sing for a minute.
All right.
I don't know what's happening. I'm refreshing it. I'm not getting an invite. Just a small town girl, living in a lonely world. Just the midnight train going anywhere. Thank you, everyone. Adam's favourite song is Anything by Miley Cyrus. But when she was Miley Cyrus, nothing Hannah Montana related. She is his favourite artist. Little peek behind the curtain, as they say. Get to know your commentators a little bit. His favourite food is soft shell crab. His favourite fast food order is a chicken royale with bacon and cheese from Burger King. What else can I tell you? His favourite beverage is Fanta Lemon, but he waters it down because he thinks it's too lemony. If you just join in, these are facts about Adam Marsden, our main commentator, while we wait to restart the race in Qatar because of the formation lap glitch is the word I was looking for. So more facts about Adam. You can rewatch the stream and go back for the ones that you've missed so far. His favourite Marvel character is Rocket, the raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. His favourite ever actor is Ben Affleck. His death row meal would not be soft shell crab, even though it's his favourite food. It would be his starter would be barbecue wings. His main would be a cheeseburger without the cheese or the burger, so just the bun. And then dessert would be a chocolate bar in the UK called it's called Boost. It's like chocolate and a bit of biscuit. His favourite alcoholic drink is VK Blue. Purely, he don't like it. They just sponsored Town at one point. That's Chesterfield FC. To anyone that doesn't know who Town is, I realise there's going to be a lot of people from all over Europe watching this, so you're not going to know who Town are. What else can I tell you? His favourite flavoured crisps, or his favourite bag of crisps, are prawn cocktail skips. His favourite race to watch as a fan is, up from the current calendar, is Qatar, even though it's not happened yet, so I don't know how it works. His favourite race, or his favourite track to race on in game, is Baku in Azerbaijan. His favourite driver currently on the grid is Lando Norris. His favourite driver of all time is Timo Glock, because he gave Lewis his first win in the McLaren. I could go on all night, mate, while we wait. I don't mind. I'm just killing time.
I can't remember most of those, but I can say that I think 100% of them were incorrect.
No.
Well, it shows how little you know me, how long we've been doing this for, and you still don't know me well enough. There we go.
No. His favourite podcast is Loaded Sport. So if you type in Loaded Sport on YouTube, you can watch him. Episode 56 came out, didn't it, last week, Aggie? What were we talking
It did,
about?
yeah. We spoke about the build-up towards Silverstone, the fallout from the week before. We didn't talk about, of course, the All Assists Off League because we had a week break, which was nice. We also spoke about Wimbledon, the Ashes, of course, that was taking place, and a lot of transfer talk. But I don't think there's going to be as much transfer talk because everything seems to be settling down. The calm before the storm at the moment, isn't it, for transfers?
It certainly is, mate. And big game for Town at the weekend, playing When's the Wednesday game? Because they're playing Blades at weekend, aren't
Yeah, they're playing Wednesday on Tuesday.
they? Are you going?
I am.
Nice. That's Chesterfield FC
Wednesday on
versus
Tuesday and
Sheffield
Derby on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Love that. Yeah, we're going Derby, aren't we? Got tickets earlier. So any of you out there, regardless of where in the UK that you are or in Europe, because I know we've got some European drivers as well, make Chesterfield FC your second team and keep a close eye on them. Me and Adam will be there for a lot of games and we'll be reviewing their season as it goes on over on Loaded Sport. But just waiting for everyone to go ready, aren't we, Adam? I've not looked at the Discord, so I don't know if there's...
No, I think invites have been sent to everybody. Everyone's set and ready. We don't have to go through qualifying again, so I think it is straight into the race. There is going to be no formation lap. This is a bug that's happened since the update, but of course, when something gets fixed, something else has to break. Over the last couple of games as well, I think we've experienced it. The formation lap is something that once you've set it up, it just doesn't seem to work. It just seems to kick everything out anyway, so it's less than ideal to have it involved. But yeah. Shout to Helen who's listening, who's just said that while she's been listening to you reel off a lot of my stats, she's not been able to stop laughing. So she knows that they're incorrect just as well as I do, and I'm pretty sure you do it to an extent as well.
Or maybe she's laughing that she's like, I'm impressed by how much that he knows about him.
Yeah,
maybe she's laughing thinking, maybe it's like a nervous laugh, like this guy knows more about him than I do.
Well, this guy knows more about him than he does. So, if any of those are correct, then there you
go. What do you think was closest to being correct? Would you say the skips is your favourite crisps, or?
You know what? What's weird is lately I have been eating skips a lot.
Oh, yes!
So I'd say that is a weird one.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I saw them at the shop and I was like, oh, you know what? I'll buy some of them. So I've had some skips not too long ago.
That's fucking brilliant, that. I didn't even realise.
Yeah, so, well done for that one. A bit weird that you managed to do it, because it's quite an obscure shout as well, isn't it? Skips, they're not the most common of crisps.
You're an obscure person, mate, so that's why I went down that road.
I am. The fact that you've gone for Miley Cyrus as my favourite singer when it is quite the opposite just baffled me completely, how you'd got to that conclusion, but it is what it is. Right, I think we are there. We are there or thereabouts ready. We are just waiting for a couple more to ready up, but the teams look like they are set to go again. So you said that your favourite to win is AMS Johnson. We'll talk more now about the tyre strategy. We'll talk more about Formula One now than personal favourites as we prepare for the start of... back to work as we start for round 2 of season 11 of the All Assists Off League in Qatar. But it wouldn't be an early race of a new game, would it, if there weren't some issues? But we've managed to iron them out, and we look like we are not too far away from lights out, and away we go. So it is AMS Johnsy that is on pole position, followed by Sandman, followed by Danger David, followed by D. Perez. That is as much as I know off the top of my head, because I remember going through those. And the strategies, of course, will be looked at once again. It's blowing my mind to an extent because it's 29 laps. So if it's half, the way the game does it is if it's half the race distance, it halves the tyre, the lifespan of the tyres. So you'd expect maybe hard tyres to last you around about 18, 19 laps. Might give you a last 10 laps on lower fuel to be able to put those soft tyres on and maybe take the fastest lap as well. I think that's the thought process there from Danger David. But it also allows, if there are any issues, he's got that opportunity then to push on further. See, with the team being with third and fourth, they've got that team advantage, like you've already mentioned, that Ferrari don't have because they're Pleasant Snakes in 10th place, and Haas don't have either because Ibo is down in 19th place. So you've got that little advantage there where if the Red Bulls stay out longer than the Ferrari and the Haas, You've then got the option of Danger David pushing on as much as he can, and then maybe if the opportunity arose, Perez maybe holding up a little bit. You know, them kind of team strategies.
Yeah, just depends on it, because this early in the season, I don't think you want to fall too much into that this early. You know, if it was towards the end of the season and there was a gap between sort of the top three and the rest of the grid, or the top two, and your teammate was one of those in the mix, I think you would lean more towards that. But yeah, this early in the season, only the second race, I don't think you want to, you want someone, or that person will want to be committing to holding off the rest of the grid when they'll have their own aspirations to be pushing to be up there in the championship.
I think Perez has got a point to prove. Now, Red Bull were competitive with Ferrari last season, and Ferrari walked away as the Constructors' champions. Perez has had a very slow start to this season. Granted, it's one race, but he had a very slow end to last season as well, didn't he? So, to support Danger David in his title bid, or to prove his own title aspirations, it's always that your first challenger is your teammate, isn't it? So I think he's got a point to prove, to go out there now at the moment and prove that he can be as competitive in the Red Bull as Danger David can.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I'm going to have to start getting back to the interesting facts about you if we don't get the race started sharpish.
Okay, so we spoke about your team of the Red Bull. Let's talk about the McLarens. 20th and 18th place ahead of the race. A different strategy assumed for if you're starting at the back of the grid to if you're starting at the front. There's no limits on what you have to start on, regardless of what happens in qualifying. The only rule is, of course, that during a dry race, you must use either soft, medium and hard. You must use 2 of the 3 compounds of tyres that are available. So what sort of approach would you take if you're starting at the back of the grid in comparison to the front, so looking at the McLarens?
It's all out war at the back, innit? You've just got to go all out, try and move up the grid. We know that first corner, it's quite an open track, so maybe only really the first corner where you've got that opportunity to really jump up the grid does also increase your chance of taking damage and having to pit. So do they play it smart, or do they get really aggressive, try and move up that 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 spots that you can do in that first corner? Or do they play sensible and pick people off one by one? I don't know. But based on the qualifying performance, they might not even have the opportunity to do that because the other drivers around them were much stronger.
That's fair. For me, it's more about... See, I know it sounds silly because I know Danger David's doing it in 3rd place, but I've always felt that if you're starting at the back, you start on the harder tyres, you get track position, and then you pit. And maybe even hope for a safety car, because the safety car changes the game completely, doesn't it? And we've seen in a couple of races where the safety car seems to be out for more laps than it's not. We do have a countdown. We are almost there. 24 seconds, as you may be able to see at the top of the screen. And then we are out on track. No formation lap as we prepare for the start of the 29 laps around Qatar. One last time, Skin. What's your top 3 prediction?
As it is on the grid.
As it is on the grid. So, Johnsy, Sandman, Danger David, yeah?
You've got it. What about you?
Okay. I'm going to say Sandman wins, Johnsy second, and I'm going to say Perez in third. I think Perez is going to have a good race and get 3rd place. I think he's going to get himself on the podium as more of a point to prove. And I think Sandman needs a win today just to kind of replant that position at the top step, if that makes sense. With of course Johnsy with a very convincing win 2 weeks ago. So I think Sandman is going to need the win, and I think he's going to have enough about him in this race. But we've never seen a race in Qatar, so this is the first time for both of us, and it hasn't actually happened in real life yet either. So it should be an interesting race as we start for the second countdown before we get the final one, which is the lights going out. So we'll just take a quick 15-second break ahead of the race.
Yep, I'll run and get some water, mate. I'll see you shortly. Oh, not like I've just had about 48 minutes to do this lap, but is what it is, isn't it?
Right, we are preparing to get underway, so hurry up and get your water and let me know when you are back. Otherwise, I'll just end up talking and running. Oh, you've got your water already?
I ain't got it, mate. I'm pouring it as we speak, but I've got half an hour to telly. I've got 1.5 hours on the water though, because we don't want to spill it, do we?
Absolutely not.
I mean, I'm back. Nailed it. Look, right, I'm gonna have a big gulp for anyone that's not from Derbyshire. That means a really big drink, and then we'll crack on, shall we?
Oh, we'll see. We'll see just at what point the engineers clear the track, because it's going to take a little bit longer since we don't get the formation lap to enjoy. So everybody is back, of course, in the race. The DNFs, the DSQs that came at the end of the formation lap just about 15-20 minutes ago will no longer count, and it will be all 20 cars, I believe, out on the grid for this race. So we are just there's only so much you can really talk about, isn't there, when you've got a 15-20 minute gap. But here we go, we are on the grid, we are waiting as the lights are out, and here we go. It's a quick start from Johnsy. Salmon out on the right hand side. We've got a drive-through penalty already for a jump start. We've got a couple of those actually coming at the moment, going into the first corner. Danger David goes up on the inside, just loses out on that position as Sandman continues in second place. Johnsy holds first place heading into turn 2. It takes a bit of a lead actually as well from Sandman, who seems to be struggling to hold off Danger David. D. Perez holds fourth place as well, with Ivor down in fifth, as the Red Bulls continue in third and fourth place, heading towards the end. What do you mean, what's happened to Sandman? Sandman's in second place.
I was saying last on man.
No, Sandman's in second place. I don't know what you're talking about. He's
second.
He's
moved up now. It's reset itself. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, he's in second place. So we have just finished Sector 1, and it is as you started for the top 6 on the grid, with Johnsy holding first position, and now heading towards a 1 second lead over VSM Sandman as well. A couple of cars going a little bit wide just on that corner might give a bit of an advantage to the Red Bulls if Danger David and D. Perez can continue to put that pressure on. We do have a couple of yellow flags heading towards where Sector 1 does end. Skin, I'll ask you about that in just a moment's time as well, as we do have a couple of drive-through penalties heading in towards we're in now the start of Sector 3, should I say, and we're starting to see a bit of a gap between Sandman and Johnsy from Danger David and the Red Bull of D. Perez, heading in towards the final corner, and we've just passed the DRS detection zone. No DRS will be used until, at the very least, the third lap, as Johnsy continues and holds first position at the end of lap 1 of 29 here in Qatar. Sandman will follow in second place. It'll be Danger David in third. The 1:29.3 is the time to beat as the fastest lap. Of course, we always expect to see that from first place in the end of lap 1, but it's interesting to see just where it'll go from here. For the next 28 laps, we've seen 2 pit stops, one of which is from the Mercedes of Quincy, the other is from the Ferrari of Pleasant Snake. So, Skin, there is a couple of drive-thrus to go on about as well.
Yeah, not the best start there. I think they went a little bit too early, which is just instantly kills your race, especially when you're that far down the grid. So a lot of work to do. As just on board with T-Bram 1, looked at maybe taking a lunge in that corner, and this is what I mean when we were talking in qualifying about the track. It's very long, it's very windy, and with the speeds at which the cars are going into the corners, I've really struggled to see the amount of overtaking opportunities, as T-Bram 1 does manage to move up in 6th place. Formel 1 Farah went very wide on that corner, opened the door, and T-Bram 1 managed to go straight through without incident. But just on board now with Sandman is under a second behind Johnsy, so not the leap into the lead that Johnsy would have wanted, but that is good for us because hopefully should mean a good race. Just moved on board with Frankie, going down the pit straight now, moves up into 7th place. So yeah, it seems like there's a bit of a glitch there. It looked like there might have been some contact as Frankie and T-Bram 1.
Nice little battle with 3 cars for 6th place at the moment between T-Bram, Formula 1 Farah and Frankie. I was just on board at the same time with you. As on the outside goes Formula 1 Farah. He manages to take 7th place, and he does make it his own going into the next corner as well, with Frankie 1811 down in 8th place, and there's a bit of pressure now being added on from RS0121 as Trugster has received a DNF. He's left the session and he's back in the pits at the moment, so he's got a DNF, and Pleasant Snake has just taken past him as well. We've got a 3-second time penalty now for Sir Ibo, who is down in 12th place, and we've got that drive-through penalty for Kwan as well. We can confirm that Quincy did have a drive-through penalty, and he served it at the end of the first lap. So as it stands at the moment, it's Johnsy out in first place. He now has that advantage back against Sandman. So Sandman no longer within DRS, but he is closing that gap depending on the corners. At the end of this lap, or the start of the next lap, if you will, for Johnson in Sandman's case, we will see the start of DRS, which is where obviously it picks up a little bit more, and that might be just the edge that D. Perez needs to get ahead of his teammate Danger David. Of course, different strategies. D. Perez on the medium tyres, Danger David on the hard, and this 3 seconds separates him at the moment from VSM. Sandman as DRS has been enabled as Johnsy continues out in first place, just over a second ahead. We've got a couple of changes at the moment, a battle between Formula 1 Fire and T-Bran going into the first corner, and it is going to stick with T-Bran in 6th place. So of course, DRS only one zone, and that is just at the end of the lap. Nice little battle going on at the moment between T-Bran and Formula 1 Fire. It is allowing Ivor to gain a bit more of a lead from the Aston Martin at the moment. It's just very close goes Formula 1 Fire there, just behind T-Bran in that battle for 6th place. He has got to keep an eye over his shoulder though, as Frankie 1811 is just behind him, and with the DRS zone coming up, it could actually be a bit more of a threat for T-Bran than it could be for anybody else. RS0121 has closed the gap on Frankie 1811, but he's still outside of the DRS zone at the moment as we enter into Sector 2 of the Qatar Grand Prix. We're on lap 4 already. That's gone quite quick actually, thinking about it. 4 laps done already. This race doesn't seem quite a long one at all, does it?
No, definitely not. I'm just on board with Quincy at the moment, looking to overtake the No Sabo, who was disqualified in qualifying. T-Bran 1 has now got a 3-second time penalty. Again, tell you what, it's a tough track when it comes to you defending your position, and it's long and windy and fast. Very, very easy to go off track, and that has now cost him as he takes the 3-second time penalty. But looking at the top of the grid, the gaps do seem now to be opening up. Sandman 2, so 1.8 seconds behind Johnsy. Danger David 2.5 seconds behind Sandman. So pretty comfortable for the top 3 drivers. A fantastic overtake from Quincy there to move up into 16th. It's not very often that you'll see someone a fast corner like that going round the outside, getting a clean overtake that we've just seen there from Quincy. So fantastic from him. Next, in terms of opportunities to overtake, you're looking at Skid Solo in 14th, looking to move ahead of Racing Wheel. But just looking at the grid very quickly, Adam, we were talking about the points and strategies and team contribution and all that. Johnsy in first place with the other Haas in 15th. Sandman in second with the other Ferrari, Pleasant Snake 13 in 18th. And Danger David still in that 3rd and 4th spot that they started at. You've got to be happy so far as a combined team with how that grid looks like.
Yeah, and I don't think they've really put too much caution in the wind, have they, between Perez and Danger David? I think they're just letting it play out as it does to make sure as Toxic then gets another 3-second time penalty. And it is just cars going wide on quite a few of these corners. It is unfortunate, but you exceed track limits, you're going to get these sort of penalties, and I think I'll be surprised if not most, if not all drivers get penalties for this at some point during the race. But yeah, I forgot your question already, but as you mentioned then about I
was asking if you were Red Bull, you've got really happy. Haas currently 1st and 15th, Ferrari currently 2nd and 18th, Red Bull currently 3rd and 4th. As you know, as much as you want to win the race, as when you look at that as towards the constructors, got to be happy.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage for them, and I think what Ferrari've got to look at is Pleasant Snake has already pitted. So if he can kind of close that gap and not be held up for too long, he's got that opportunity that when everyone else pits to kind of like leapfrog a couple of those drivers. I think it'll all come down to strategy as to just how those top 3 may change, or even the top 4 may change to an extent as well. I know Ivor's still just over 2 seconds behind Perez, as I'm on board at the moment with an overtake for T-Bran, keeping his position ahead of Formula 1 Farah, and in comes Frankie 1811, who now gets a 3-second time penalty. So Formula 1 Farah takes 6th place, and the 2 drivers behind him have taken penalties for exceeding track limits. So that's T-Bran, Frankie, Toxic and Sir Ibo, all on 3-second time penalties, as Formula 1 Farah's got a bit of defending to do now. On the outside goes T-Bran. He's going to try and gain his position. He'd gain a little bit more momentum, I think, on that corner as well, and taken 6th place off of him. Continues round into the next corner. He's now being joined by RS0121, who's going to try and join this battle for 6th place as well, as this time it's Formula 1 Farah that's forced wide, and it allows T-Bran to take that position as RS0121 takes the position away from Frankie. There's still a bit of a battle there, and I think he might have just got DRS over him as well, as DRS is opened by Formula 1 Farah onto T-Bran, goes out onto the outside, which will be the inside for the corner, as well as Kwan gets a penalty as well. and it is going to be Formula 1 Ferrari that takes 6th place back off T-Bran as RS0121 makes 8th place his own and gets the opportunity now to push further on to T-Bran. I think it's difficult to see where all these changes and the swapping and changings are going to be once you've gained a position, because normally you see on tracks that once a DRS zone is opened, the second DRS zone isn't normally too far away. On this one, you've got an entire lap before you can regain that advantage, so you've got to keep within that car, within 1 second of the car ahead, haven't you? So RS0121's done well to kind of catch up with Frankie 1811. He's now got T-Bran on his mind next. 5 seconds, nearly 6 seconds separate 6th from 5th though, and I think you can just start to see where the so-called best of the rest are starting to sit on this grid at the moment for this race. So yeah, it's Ivor still in 5th place, looks like he's a bit flying solo at the moment, with Perez up in 4th place, nearly 2.5 seconds the distance there. As big news is Sandman taking a 3-second time penalty, which as it stands at the moment would leave him in 4th place. So it would actually kick him off of the podium at the moment.
And what a result for Red Bull that will be. I tell you what, I've been on board with a couple of battles towards the back of the grid, and there's some fantastic racing going on. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You mentioned earlier about we could end up with a lot of the drivers having a grid penalty. We've currently got 8 out of the 19 drivers on track that have a time penalty as it stands. So clearly it's a bit of an adjustment. Again, fast, winding tracks. You do find it hard, especially with the grip issues.
Wow, Sandman's now up to a 6-second time penalty.
What's happening?
So I'm just looking as it's come up saying that he's got a penalty. He's now on 6 seconds for his penalty, which would actually put him down in 5th place, as the Nocebo now takes a penalty as well. So I think what Sandman's doing, I'm on board with him at the moment just to see where any of these issues might be arising for him. But he's got to steady things down a little bit, and that's allowed Danger David and D. Perez to catch up. So he's really losing a lot of pace on Jonesy at the moment. He's now nearly 5 seconds behind him. As it stands, it's 4.5, and he's got a 6-second time penalty, which will push him down into 5th place. So he's got to be very careful when taking some of these corners, because it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for him. He's getting penalties for going off, and if he's staying on, the cars behind him are kind of catching him. So I'm not sure if this is a tyre issue or just, like you say, an adjustment to the track, but he seems to be struggling at the moment, and it's working, like you say, in Red Bull's favour, and it's even going to work for the Aston Martin of Ivor, as we are on lap 8, and I don't think we are too far away from maybe seeing some of the strategies being implemented, if not changed, as RS0121 gets a 3-second time penalty. So everybody in that battle for 6th place that we've been excited about so far have all got time penalties, so it evens it out ever so nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, we can get back to racing now, as T-Bran 1 moves up into 6th place. I must say, as much as we're talking about drivers getting used to the track because it's new and how fast it is, there's been some fantastic overtakes so far when I've been on board with drivers. I'm doing my best to just sort of stick on board with whoever's closest to the driver in front, and yeah, as Quincy has moved up the grid, on board with him at the moment, he's looking to overtake Petter Caspi. Has now got DRS in the on the pit straight. I'm just not sure whether or not he may potentially run out of room, which he has done. Now Petter Caspi has got a time penalty, but with Racing Wheel and Skid Solo ahead of them, without one at the moment, I'm sure Quincy will want to get ahead sooner rather than later, so we can chase down those two as well and potentially make a move towards the top 10. But yeah, so far, despite the issues and the fact that majority of the grid are now sitting on time penalties, there's been some brilliant racing taking place in the middle of the grid and towards the back as well. As Quincy, another fantastic overtake. I think as it stands with who I've been on board with, he has to be my driver of the day. 2 brilliant overtakes that I've seen, and he is now up into 14th place after serving that drive-through penalty. But towards the top of the grid, Sandman 5 seconds behind and a 6-second time penalty. Skid Solo.
No. Sandman's now up to 9-second time penalty. We now have a 6-second time penalty for Sir Ribbo down in 16th place as well, as he's just received another penalty. As here goes Formula 1 Fire on the inside into turn 1 ahead of T-Bran. Keeps that position and in towards turn 2 though, when he keeps his car just ahead of T-Bran, so that position remains his own heading into turn 3. It's still a bit of a battle going on there between him and T-Bran. If T-Bran can get the inside line, but he can't quite get up the side of the Williams car, so Formula 1 Faro will continue in 6th place at the moment. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Sandman now has a 9-second time penalty.
Wow. We'll leave it at well for now, shall we?
I don't think there's much else we can say about that at the minute. And I think when he pits, 5 seconds, of course, will come off that. They'll probably serve 5 seconds of that whilst in the pits to make it a bit easier for them. But yeah, Skid Solo just jumps up into 11th place with a nice overtake over Toxic. He's still 5 seconds away from Maverick at the moment, as it's now 12-second time penalty for Sandman. I'm not sure if the game's glitching or whether this is a genuine thing. Are you on board with him?
I'm not on board with him, no, which I'm going to jump on board with him now. But 12 seconds, you do seem to find with the time penalties that you'll get a couple of warnings before you get the next one. So either there is a glitch or he's all over the place. But I'm on board with him now. Let's see where he's potentially going wrong. But I'll let you carry on. If I do see anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we've just seen RS0121 get past Frankie 1811 to keep his 8th place as T-Brand manages to go past Formula 1 Farah on the pit straight with the assistance of DRS to take 6th place back. There's a bit of a distance as well between 9th and 10th place. Maverick currently sits 22 seconds behind Frankie. Now, I believe the way the game works is if you've got anything less than a 5-second time penalty, it will not be served in the pits, which means Sandman and Suribo can all take some penalties, I believe, whilst in the pits. The remainder will sit on the 3-second time penalties. So when these do pit, they will still remain ahead of Maverick, who is currently in 10th place, sitting 22 seconds behind 9th. So that's some gap that the top 9 have managed to give themselves ahead of where Maverick is in 10th place, as we're on board with Frankie 1811, who's just a little bit of pace from where RS0121 is, as well as D. Perez now gets himself a time penalty in the Red Bull. That will lose him 4th place. It will be handed over to Ivor, who is currently just 1.7 seconds behind 4th place D. Perez, as Danger David seems to have lost a bit of pace on what Sandman had as well, so maybe a bit of his ERS has steadied down. As we are on lap 12, I'd expect to see, as I say, some pit stops anytime soon as in goes VSM Sandman. He is in the pits at the moment. You've been on board with him. He's coming out, I believe. Is that on soft tyres?
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, soft tyres. So that pulls him down into 8th place. He's not served any of the time penalty. I expected at least 5 seconds to have gone from that time, but he's come out in 9th place still with that time penalty there. And Maverick, who I believe is pitted as well, is now currently 43 seconds behind VSM Sandman. So there you go. I'll let you do with that what you want. 10th place is currently 42 seconds behind where 9th place is at the moment. So you can see that distance as the time starts to come down, just as it acknowledges that VSM Sandman is the next car to Maverick, but I think Maverick still has a pit stop to make. So an interesting strategy for Ferrari to pit onto the soft tyres, hoping they will last them the 17 laps to see through this race and still keep him on a podium position. So maybe a knee-jerk decision as well, thinking of how he's going to have to try and clear off some of this penalty. As D. Perez has got past Danger David, goes up into 2nd place. Maybe a bit of a strategy there, thinking if Perez can get himself a bit of a lead from Danger David, or even from Ivor, that 3-second time penalty will be pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, and then it comes down to pure performance on the track. But D. Perez has moved ahead of Danger David now. They have just gone into DRS, and Danger David has managed to scrape being able to use it, but too far back to make an overtake attempt at this point. So D. Perez will hold on to that 2nd place. Looking up and down the track, there's not really that much going on in terms of potential overtaking opportunities. I'm on board with RS0121, who's using DRS, but again, not really close enough, as Quincy now up to 12th place, overtakes Toxic to take the 12th. Yeah, I think at the moment Quincy's my driver of the day. I know I mentioned it last time, but every time I'm as Toxic manages to brake just in time to avoid contact, and Quincy goes into the pits as Racing Wheel 027 overtakes Toxic and moves up into 12th place. So yeah, the track seems to be settling down a little bit now. Not too much, as a couple of drivers battling, but other than that, the majority of the track seems pretty comfortable with where they are at the moment.
Well, at the moment, I'm on board with RS0121 as there goes a bit of a spin from Formula 1 Farah, and it's allowed RS0121 to keep on moving up into 6th place. T-Brand's now in 5th place. Of course, this battle is now for 5th place after the pit stop of VSM Sandman. There's a spin there for Formula 1 Farah. I was on board with RSO121. It looks like he might have just caught the back end of T-Brand. I've been on board watching from literally the onboard section, not from the aerial view, just to try and see the battle that's going on as T-Brand heads into the pits. It looks like there could have been a bit of a collision there between Formula 1 Farah and T-Brand. Nothing that the officials, of course, saw penalty worthy, but it's allowed RSO121 to move up into what is now 4th place, as Evor is also pitted down from what was 4th place for themselves as well, as VSM Sandman moves out on the outside and goes up into 4th place. He's 16 seconds behind Danger David. He's 24 seconds he's 24 seconds, yes, behind Johnsy, who currently leads the race. So he needs to find that little bit of extra pace, and he might be able to get Johnsy on the pit stop strategy here. But yeah, Formula 1 Farah now moves down into 6th place as a result of that collision. No damage because it happened before the pit lane entry, and he didn't go in. So I'm assuming there's no damage or no significant damage to the Williams, but he falls down into 6th place with Evor and now T-Brand in 7th and 8th respectively. I expected a comment from yourself there, but I'll carry on nonetheless, as I've got set up on my screen all the penalties that are currently
nothing to say, and I also realised I was on mute as well, so I apologise for that. I was actually on board with Formula Farah when I spun off track, so we've got both perspectives there. As Danger David moves up in 2nd with D Perez pitting, and Johnsy
first now with Johnsy pitting.
That's it as well. Another time penalty on the grid. But yeah, I'm just looking.
Sandman is on the pit straight as Johns is on his way out. Here we go. Let's see if Sandman can get him on the pit stop strategy. It's going to be very, very close, and I think he might just have the edge on it. Woo! And I think he's going to have it. It's going to be very, very close, and he does have it. Up into 2nd place with Johnsy in 3rd, and Perez is now in 4th place as it stands at the moment. And I think they've just lapped Ibo, who is currently running in 19th place as well. So if it's a case of Johnsy stuck behind him, it might also work in Sandman's favour. But an absolute nailed strategy by Ferrari there to get him ahead of Johnsy. The question now is with the tyres. So he's gone on to soft tyres. Johnsy's gone on to hard, so the assumption with Haas is that they're going to see this race through to the end on them hard tyres. What is Sandman going to be able to do with these soft tyres? Surely he's not going to get them to last a good 16 laps towards the end of the race. If he does, it's going to be an incredible achievement, and if he's going to manage it. But with the softer tyres, the quicker tyres, they're a bit warmer at the moment, maybe he can get himself a bit more of an advantage that pit stop isn't going to prove quite as pivotal for him, as Danger David currently runs 10 seconds clear of Sandman and of Johnsy out in 1st place on the medium tyres. He's going to pit now, and I think this will bring him out maybe behind Formula 1 Farah as well. So we'll go on board with him just to see how close he can actually get with the Red Bull of Perez just behind him. He's not yet pitted himself, so we'll see just what happens when that pit stop does go ahead. He's staying out for now, going out onto the pit straight. Sandman takes up 1st place, Johnsy takes up 2nd, Danger David and Perez now gets ahead of Formula 1 Farah, so it is a Red Bull 3 and 4, kind of as we were before, and he might even get ahead of his teammate here. Perez looks like he is going to go in ahead of Danger David, and Formula 1 Farah is going to follow through as well, which means Danger David is now in 5th place, taking into account that Formula 1 Farah also has to pit.
Yeah, I'm just on board with Johnsy's closing the gap. Despite that tyre difference that you mentioned earlier, he's got a gap there. He had a little look at the inside of Sandman, but ran out of room as they are now halfway through Sector 2 of lap 16. But this should be a really intriguing race now, as you mentioned there. The difference in tyre choices on top of the fact that Johnsy has dominated qualifying and racing so far in this season, and Sandman is the 3-time world champion, won those 3 world championships back to back to back. So this now will be a true test of what Johnsy can offer this league. He is on the slower tyre, and he is currently behind. So I say that though, they're going to the last corner. He's only just behind him, and he will have DRS. But will Sandman benefit from the fact? No, he won't. He does not have DRS. And Johnsy makes a move down the right-hand side and moves back into 1st place. What a drive this is yet again as it stands from the newcomer.
Yeah, he's executed that to perfection, hasn't he? And I'm surprised Sandman didn't get that DRS there, based upon the fact that he was just behind. I think it's Kwan he's just behind at the moment, or the Alpine of Peter Caspi. So I'd probably say that I thought he was going to get the DRS. He needs to make sure that he's staying within a second of Johnsy, though, because those soft tyres should be much more influential in the decision of who's going to finish on the top step of this podium than the hard tyres that Johnsy has gone on to. We've got yellow flag going around this corner, and it is just from a couple of back markers moving out of the way to allow the front runners to make their way through. It is Johnsy now back out in first place, Sandman in second, Perez in third, and Danger David in fourth. I will go on record and say that if Sandman can get these tyres to last towards the end of the race, he nearly has that 12-second gap over D. Perez that he needs. I'll come over to you now then, because it sounds like a bit of an incident with a yellow flag.
Yeah, it was a few drivers. I'm just on board with Formel 1 Farah, just because that was a little bit of a cluster. And I think, I didn't catch who it was. It might have been the Haas Cerebo at the back of the grid spun as cars were overtaken, and Formel 1 Farah just had to do a very quick swerve. There is now a bit of a gap. He was around half a second behind Evil 32 when I came on board, but that is now 4 seconds. But yeah, very, very, very close to an on-track collision that no doubt would have caused quite a bit of damage, and probably, based on the speed and the part of the track they were on, would have brought out a safety car. But great awareness from Formula 1 Farah as they pit. Ivor overtakes Danger David, using DRS to their advantage. And Danger David has now fell down to 5th place after starting the race in 3rd.
Yeah, and he started out on medium tyres instead of the hard ones he'd set up for before the game crash. So he's now on hard tyres, and that means his pit stop, he isn't going to require another one. But Evo, yeah, he's moved up into 4th place, and he's still in a good shout to be able to put a bit more pressure on D. Perez if he can keep that going. But Danger David's going to have to try and battle to get this position back, because it's losing valuable points for Red Bull that could be quite important come the end of the season. As I'm on board now with Formula 1 Ferrari, he's battling with Maverick, goes round on the outside and manages to keep 9th place from the McLaren, who hasn't yet pitted and still sits in 10th place. We have yet another 3-second time penalty for the current defending champion of VSM Sandman, and that puts him up, I believe, to 15 seconds, which means he will fall down to 3rd place. As it stands, it's not quite enough for Ivor to be elevated up into 3rd place, but we'll stay with that for the remaining 11 laps of the race, as Formula 1 Ferrari is on fresh, softer tyres that could probably last him the 11 laps that remain in this race, and it's just allowed him to gain enough of an advantage of Maverick that Maverick no longer has the DRS, as Frankie 1811 is the closest, I think, going on to RS 0121. In saying that, Danger David's managed to get past Ivor, and he's held that position going into turn 1 with the assistance, of course, of DRS as well. Danger David in 4th place now. If he can get it within 3 seconds of Perez, of course, Perez has that penalty as well, so it could still move him up into 3rd place. It does mean that with that 3-second time penalty of Perez, Sandman could still hold 2nd place here, or we could be looking at a Red Bull 2 and 3. So the amount of penalties that keep on going in the Ferrari drivers' way could cost him valuable points, with his teammate down in 12th place, not currently qualifying for any points, and currently sitting about 25 seconds away. Sandman, I assume, would also need to pit as well, so this could have been a disaster for Ferrari in this race, and it's going to have to be a case of regroup before we make the trip back to America, to Miami, next Monday evening. Toxic CZ10 currently with another time penalty down in 13th place. You've been following any close battles? I think the closest we've got at the moment is either Ivor battling with Danger David, or the one between Frankie and RS0121.
Yeah, I've been on board with Frankie for the last close to a lap now. It's not really an overtaking opportunity. There is still a bit of a gap, although RS did go a little bit wide there as they head into the last corner and DRS. So, just as I say, there's not really been one while I've been on board. You've probably joined me at the perfect time, as Frankie will now have DRS going down the pit straight, but I think the gap is just big enough for RS to maintain that 7th position as they go into the first corner very comfortably. So yeah, as it stands, not really not really many battles taking place as Formula 1 Farah has moved on to softs and takes the fastest lap. Who saw that coming?
Formula 1 Farah did. Spoiler alert, he knew it was going to happen. Quincy with another 3-second time penalty, then down in 11th place. And I've never seen a race on a video game, and we've played this for a while ourselves, with so many penalties. As Sandman gets another time penalty. RS0121 now with a time penalty on there as well. So
that was
the
pure
penalty at the moment is
up for the Gary Neville compilation, by the way. I did a pure Gary Neville. Oh, and I didn't realise till after.
Well, Sandman has pitted with his 18-second time penalty alongside him as well. So how many time penalties do you get before it becomes a disqualification is the worry. Because you're the expert at this. You tend to get time penalties.
Oh, mate, I'm
going out of fashion, mate.
Yeah,
how many do you get before it becomes a disqualification? Because now that's the worry that Sandman's got.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I like to collect time penalties like you used to collect Pokemon cards back in the day.
Still do.
Yeah, still do. It can't be like 18 seconds. You look. It depends. If you're getting time penalties because you're blocking the track, that tends to be a disqualification a lot quicker than if you're exceeding track limits, for example, as the No Sabo gets another 3-second time penalty. So, based on the reasons why he's got them, I think he'll have a little bit. He's probably pitted to go on to softs and try and get this fastest lap back, but. Yeah, certainly not his fastest lap, and what a race for John Z in terms of the Drivers' Championship, and what a race for Red Bull in terms of the Constructors. Both of those leads will increase massively if the result stays the same. But look, we've commentated on a few races in this league now. We've still got 8 and a bit laps to go. Anything can happen between now and then, and I think this might actually be the first race, touch wood and hoping not to jinx it, where we've not had a safety car.
Yeah, it'll also be the first one where we've not seen Sandman on the podium. So, and that's an interesting one within itself, because as it stands, it's the Red Bulls in 2nd and 3rd place, and it's very close because Ivor is getting within that 3 seconds that plays the difference, with Perez having that 3-second time penalty of whether he's going to finish on a podium step or not. So Perez up in 2nd place holds an 18-second deficit to AMS Jonesy. I assume with these 7 laps left, you don't risk anything. You don't try and get yourself the fastest lap from a leading position, as Danger David keeps the inside line and manages to hold 3rd place ahead of Ivor, who took 3rd place away from him, should I say, with DRS. We do go reaching towards the end now of Sector 1. Ivor does still keep 4th place, and Danger David might just be holding him up a little bit and working out a massive favour here. Not necessarily intentional, but working out a massive favour here for his teammate, as 3 seconds now means Perez will actually keep 2nd place, as opposed to it being a case of he'd lose 3rd and maybe even 4th. So there you go.
I'm just
Danger
on board
David
with
all
Ivor
for the team at the
pushing.
moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Ivor is pushing Danger David hard, though, to try and get that last spot on the podium. It gets close, but yeah, it's not. Quincy is moved up into 10th
he's nailed
now.
that. He's absolutely nailed that. He's gone onto the inside, and as he tried to be blocked there from Pleasant Snake, he's gone quickly onto the outside. And within the rules, Pleasant Snake's allowed him to go. Of course, he's tried to keep the inside line, and Quincy's done a superb job to take up into 10th place there. So very well done from him. And he's like you say, he's had a fantastic race, and overtakes like that are just so good to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think this will hold the record for most time penalties in terms of seconds distributed in a race, as Sandman takes back the fastest lap with a 23.7?
Yes, I think it might actually. I can't think of one that's had so many time penalties. I don't think Austria was too far away in qualifying. I think was there not something like, was it in practice where they had like 37, 47 invalidated lap times due to crossing over the line? So I don't think we're far away from that, but I think that's holding the record in my eyes so far. Is Danger David now 3 seconds ahead, 3 seconds behind D Perez, meaning Ivor is now 3.5. So it looks like the Aston Martin might just have to settle for 4th place, but he is within DRS. If he can close that gap heading on to the pit straight, which is where we currently sit with Quincy, as Sandman now, after getting the fastest lap, takes his time penalties up to a mere 21 seconds as he sits in 5th place in the Ferrari, as Pleasant Snake uses his DRS to go up the inside of Quincy and takes back 10th place. Another excellent overtake, but Quincy's going to try and keep the inside line going into turn 1. It's currently sat with Pleasant Snake. Going into turn 2, it sits with him still, and the Ferrari does keep 10th place, and the Mercedes is going to have to wait for the end of the lap before he can use DRS to try and get himself back up, as now VSM Sandman has managed to get past Ivor on the pit straight, and VSM Sandman is very close to Danger David and to not to D Perez, sorry. I believe that's one of the Alpines coming out of the pit, so he's very close to Danger David and keep on going up the inside of him on these soft tyres. He's going to try and get himself somehow a 21-second advantage, but that's going to work out still as a high finish for him, because 19 seconds currently separates 5th from 6th as it stands, as he gets past Danger David with a bit of ease, but I'd say that's down to the newer, fresher, quicker, soft tyres that he's sporting on his Ferrari car at the moment, as Johnsy takes a 3-second time penalty, but I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference at the moment, with a 21-second lead over D Perez in 2nd place. We've got 2.7 seconds now between Sandman and Perez. Perez, of course, also on a 3-second time penalty. But again, I think it's going to be a case of Sandman needs to get past him in these next 5 laps and get as far ahead as he possibly can. His time penalty will currently leave him down in 5th place, elevating Danger David and Ivor back up to the 3rd and 4th place respectively. But in the last lap, since getting past Danger David at the start of this lap, he's managed to cut off nearly half the distance to D Perez. So if he can get himself within, he's not going to get himself within DRS for this lap. D Perez is going to have himself DRS due to the back marker just ahead of him, though, who is going to move out of the way as Kwan takes yet another time penalty for exceeding track limits. We're coming up towards turn 1. Sandman now sat behind one of the back markers. It does give Perez that little bit extra
Quincy just
advantage
had a big
now,
spin
though.
there. Well, not big spin, but lost control coming out of that corner.
Okay, well, Sandman now cuts that gap to less than a second, and this is excellent racing from Sandman since moving on to these soft tyres. He's taken the fastest lap. He may have had to get a penalty a lap later, but this driving's been on point for him to close that gap onto Perez, and he'll wonder, looking through his rear view mirror, just where that's come from, as Formula 1 Farah has retired from the session. Sandman goes up on the outside of D Perez and takes 2nd place and second step on the podium. Still a long way to go, though, in terms of the calculations of all the penalties. I do not envy the mathematician that is going to be sat currently in race control trying to figure out just what's going to happen, as Johnsy has pitted. So this could make it interesting if Johnsy's pit allows Sandman and Perez to get very close. Danger David is within 2 seconds behind, so he's pitting from the hard tyres. He's gone onto soft tyres to try and keep that lead. I think he's going to be able to do it, as onto the pit straight now comes Sandman and D Perez, followed shortly behind by Danger David. Danger David is the only one of the top 4 without a time penalty alongside his name, as Johnsy makes it out onto the pit straight just ahead of VSM Sandman, and I think that 3-second time penalty will not drop him out of the top 3, so he'll still keep first step on the podium. But Sandman does have DRS. He's within DRS of Johnsy at the moment, or he was. He's just lost that, and Johnsy, as it stands, still keeps first place. So the pit for soft tyres, maybe try and get that extra point, knowing his teammate is currently struggling down in 18th place. Try and get that extra point maybe for the championship, drivers and constructors, because of course you never know what happens over the course of a Formula 1 season. You could have a bad few races which changes everything, as Perez.
Yeah, he's gone off track there. He had Danger David and Evo just behind him, and just coming off of a left-hander, his car just kicked him left. But I didn't catch if he took damage. He has got back on track though, so he's still in the race. Unfortunately, he's dropped down to 5th, which has opened the door for Danger David to get that last step on the podium. So, with 3 and a bit laps to go, we have just reset to how the race started.
Well, not quite. Evo's up in 4th place as it stands at the moment.
In terms of the
Perez,
podium,
I didn't realise. Oh, in the podium, of course, yeah. I didn't realise that Perez had a 6-second time penalty. I thought it was still sat at 3, so that might have come as a result of that recent spin as well. Currently 8 seconds the distance between Johnsy and Danger David, so it's whether anything happens now from Danger David's Ivor goes past him with DRS and quite smoothly gets past Danger David on the hard tyres. Both drivers on hard tyres between the Aston Martin and the Red Bull. They've had a nice little battle back and forth between the two of them, and I think ultimately both of them are going to finish on the podium with Sandman on that 21-second time penalty as it stands at the moment. It does mean Perez might actually be elevated up into 4th place. I'm just doing the maths, and as it stands, he will be in 4th place. It will be Danger David up into 3rd, and Ivor, as it stands, up into 2nd. And that'll have been an excellent race from Ivor, who qualified in 5th place. For a lot of the race, looked like he was just fighting a lonely battle there, just to keep himself occupied. But he's fighting up there now with the best of them, and I think he's a bit of an outsider for this, isn't he, at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. But we, sorry, I was on board with Ivor there. I'm just looking now. I'm just looking at Danger David's chances of taking back that 3rd spot going into the pit straight, which they'll be at in a couple of corners' time. I think the gap is just big enough, unless he can close it now. I do think Danger David now going into the penultimate lap, he's closed that gap brilliantly as Johnsy sets a new fastest lap of a 22.7. Yeah, Ivor should have enough of a gap there, despite the DRS advantage, to maintain 3rd space. But yeah, what a race. I know I've said Quincy for me is my driver of the day based on what I've seen, but Ivor having a fantastic race to disrupt what is considered by most, and certainly by me, the top 3 drivers on the track.
Yeah, I think my driver today is going to go with a vote to Ivor. I know in the Discord there's a vote that tends to go on, allowing all the drivers to get involved in that as well, which I think is fantastic. And we can even vote on it just as
Where
a heads
did
up. I
Ivor
don't know
start?
if he did last time. He started in 5th place and he's moved up into 3rd, but he's well, he's going to finish in 2nd, but he's going to be competing with some of the front runners, and I think a bit of an unsung hero award can go to him on the back of that. I think that's a very fair assessment. But as it stands at the moment, they're both knocking on the door of getting past Sandman anyway, as there is a yellow flag out, and I think that is for, I'm going to say,
take Sandman. Did Sandman let them go there? Interesting.
I know, it seemed a bit easy, didn't it, that one?
Very.
I'm not sure if he's struggling at the moment or what, but as it stands, 21 seconds. I think he's just taking it steady, isn't he, just to make sure there's no more time penalties. As it stands, this will drop him down into... it won't drop him down into 5th place, will it? Because the distance is 14 seconds. The penalty is 21. But Perez has a 6-second time penalty, so at the moment it's only effectively 15 seconds. So Sandman will still finish in 4th place because RS0121 also has a 6-second time penalty. Frankie has a weak penalty. T-Bran has 6-second penalty. Quincy has 3 seconds. Everyone's got penalties.
Sandman's
most of these are in double figures.
The track.
I think he's playing it safe just to make sure he doesn't get any more penalties.
Yeah, potentially, but it was going very, very slow around the track. But anyway, it is the last lap. I'll let you maybe jump on board with Johnsy as he looks to claim his 2nd win out of the 2 races available.
Yeah, he looks almost faultless at the moment, doesn't he? The strategy has been on point once again from the Haas driver. In qualifying, he took pole position with quite a convincing ending to it as well. The formation lap didn't fault him. The delay in starting didn't fault him as he enters in towards Sector 3 and prepares himself for back-to-back wins. It started last week in Las Vegas. It's going to continue this week in Qatar. We'll find out next week, of course, what he can do in Miami. But he goes on to the pit straight. Probably gets the assistance of DRS as well to finish it. In 1st place goes AMS Johnsy, and the 3-second time penalty will not falter either as Danger David will cross the line 14 seconds later. We're just on board with him at the moment as he goes on to the pit straight as well. He's going to finish in 2nd place, one of the very few drivers to finish without a time penalty. Ivor, who's fighting him very close to the line, is going to finish in 3rd place. D. Perez takes 4th place. It's VSM, or we're going to see if he's going to finish in 4th place. I think it's pretty much set with the 6-second time penalty. A lot of the drivers below also have time penalties. Yeah, the Sandman one does seem quite questionable, as Perez seems to be having the same sort of issue. He's slowed down massively at the moment on this pit straight, and I'm not quite sure just what's going on. He's gone down into 5th gear, and he seems to be struggling to get any sort of speed in his car at the moment, and he
Is
does
he in
finish
low
in
fuel
4th
mode?
place. Potentially, I'm not quite sure. It said overtake at the bottom, so I'm not sure. RSO121 manages to climb up into 5th place as VSM Sandman continues in free fall, and we'll tell you in just a moment. I think it's going to sit him in 6th place. I don't think he is in low fuel mode. It is low fuel mode at the moment for VSM Sandman, who's going to limp across the line in 6th place. T. Bran in 7th place with his 6-second time penalty. Quincy makes his way all the way up into 8th. It's Pleasant Snake in 9th. Maverick in 10th. Frankie 18 11 in 11th. Racing Wheel 027 in 12th. Toxic CZ10 in 13th. Then Osebo takes 14th. Quan takes 15th. Peter Caspi takes 16th. Skid Solo takes 17th. Sir Ibo takes 18th. And Formula 1 Farah and Truckster are the 2 DNFs that we got from today's race. And it's saying that VSM Sandman's now getting a DNF as well, so I'm not quite sure.
Steering wheel out the window. He's stormed off.
The thing is, if that's a DNF, it puts him down into 18th place. Now, it said he'd left the session, but I'm sure he'd crossed the line before it said he'd left the session.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, that
Quincy got
stays
driver
as
of
it
the
is.
day, according to the game.
Well, that's because you've bribed it. I respectfully disagree. Whilst Quincy has had a fantastic race, my vote is still going to go with Evo32, who takes the 3rd step of the podium for the Aston Martin. But it's 2 out of 2 for this week's winner, AMS Johnsy, who won last week in Las Vegas. He's won this week in Qatar, and the new tracks seem to have worked out in his favour, but it's back to familiarity as we take the trip to the Hard Rock Stadium to see the streets of Miami used for the race, round 3 of season 11 of the All Assists Off League Skin. What do they have to do to get AMS Johnsy off the top step of this podium?
Crash him out.
Well, that's cheating.
I mean, you asked.
It is, you're absolutely right. Credit to all the drivers today. It's been a fantastic race, a crazy amount of penalties. So if you are watching on the stream, you can see just in front of you the standings at the moment for the drivers, and it even tells you on the right hand side the high amount of penalties that drivers got to get and enjoy as well. But we have finished. It's another one in the books. Skin, thank you very much for joining me. Of course, we're back for round 3 in Miami next Monday around 7:30.